Right, and we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Live at the Lounge. It's Sunday, September 27th now.
Yeah.
We're at 6 months now into a 2-week lockdown? Yeah, how this works. So anyway, we are live here coming from Five Knocks in downtown Bryan, and as soon as the lockdown is lifted, this place will have a live studio audience, so we're looking forward to that. Regular guys joining us. All the way over there on the left is College Station's answer to Don Reddy. Just don't mention Kirky, okay? David Kirky. So thank you for joining us, David. And then on my right, you've got he's like Poseidon, only a little bit shorter. The realtor extraordinaire, Alex Jester. And immediately to my left, a guy that we've been waiting to have on this show since we started. And it's just been, we cross paths, we'd never get the schedules right. But he's finally here, the owner of House of Tires, La Pistola. La Pistola, yeah, the English pronunciation of the Spanish word there, La Pistola Longhorns, and soon to be Bryan City Councilman Bobby Gutierrez.
Well,
welcome, Bobby.
Thank you very much. So, soon to be, I hope I'm blessed enough to be able to continue to serve the city of Bryan. So I'm doing great.
I certainly hope so. So we always start out with how was your week? So we're just going to put you straight on the spot. Give us a couple of wins that you've had this week, because I know you've been busy putting out signs. Yeah,
I think I've got everything, but maybe about 4 signs left. So I think that's a big thing. And we've been, you're out shaking hands and knocking doors and putting hangers out. We had our first flyers came out. They'd should have hit the mailboxes yesterday and the day before yesterday. So it's our first round. Kind of wanted to get there before the deluge of, we're going to have presidentials, we're going to have senators, we have Supreme Court justices, we've got a little bit of everything going on.
So we all vote on the same day, is that right?
Everybody votes on the same day.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I'm at the very bottom, so I'm hopefully that, they'll get to the the lowly ones.
Well, good.
Can you pay more to get higher up on the ballot?
No, starts with the presidential and it works its way down. I'm right before all the propositions. So I'm at the very bottom.
Oh, man, that's rough. But have they done ballot draw yet?
They did do ballot draw. Drew first top on bar, which that's a good thing too. So it's that's a good thing.
This is your first run for public office?
This is my first run for public office. It's everybody has always thought this is really what I wanted to do, and it really I've had a good time being behind the scenes, and I feel like I've got a lot done. I've been able to get a lot done. It just seems like it'll be a test to see if I'm able to get more done in front or I'm more effective behind the scenes. Well, so we'll see.
I guess we'll just have to see. Now, I do need to remind everybody it's an interactive podcast. So if you've got any questions for us, or more importantly, Bobby, throw them up in the chat, because we're all monitoring the feed here to see what comes in. I see Eric watching, as always, the perennial. Good evening, Eric. So moving over to the left, David, share a win with us this week. How was your week, mate?
My week was pretty good. We are working on closing out a month, as the panic always ensues.
That's the thing about sales, man.
It's cyclical.
It's monthly. You're a rock star on the 29th.
On the 1st, everybody sucks equally. It's been good. Overall, we're trying to close the month out strong. I think we're starting to see election years tend to be a bit tumultuous in my business. Everybody kind of waits to see what's going to happen. This year's been different with COVID. We've actually had a really good year. But I think we're starting to see some of that election uncertainty and slowdown, where he's like, well, I can put this decision off 60 days. Let's see what happens in November. And so we've seen some of that demand start to waver.
That always amazes me, because elections on a national stage.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it would impact somebody.
They have very little impact on what's going on locally.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's on the forefront of people's minds. So it's all they see. It's all they're barraged with every day.
It makes you question what could happen, and so those
it gets you thinking about stuff on a national level again.
Right.
Typically September is one of the slowest months for trading in the stock market.
So I don't even know. Are you Republican or Democrat?
Well, I'm a precinct chair. I'm a Republican precinct chair.
Okay.
So I've been involved. Our family's been involved in the Republican Party for many years, and I think it just closely aligns with a lot of our family values, our heritage,
right.
And it just. I've enjoyed being a Republican. More so, conservative, fiscal conservative, social conservative, just a lot of different things going on.
So I'm a little bit opposite end of you. I'm very fiscally conservative, but I'm socially quite liberal.
Well,
almost libertarian.
I would probably say social moderate is what I would probably say.
Yeah.
More than anything else. So, but you're right. The election year always changes everything. COVID was a horrible time. At House of Tires, which is we've been there for 50 years basically. To have March and April where we were off, 53% in sales, and we're an essential business, so we had to stay open. So we're open there, and you're just literally just bleeding money because you're trying to keep everybody going, keep everybody up. And nobody, and nobody was coming in because there was shelter in place.
Well, nobody's driving.
Exactly.
That's what we saw through March and April is we had a lot of meetings, a lot of conference calls saying, are we going to be open? Yes. How do we handle it if we're told to close? We were looking at other states like Pennsylvania that was forcing sales to close, but service could remain open, and you could sell a vehicle if it was to an essential employee that had to buy because the car was unfixable. Like, there was all these unquantifiable variables, and so I felt like it was hour to hour. You were trying to figure out what was going on for.
And we were, days. And I had the the privilege of being on some of those calls from the governor and listening to him, firsthand what they were doing, and. I've never been any kind of a conspiracy theory type of person or anything like that. But,
we are.
You're sitting there listening to this stuff, and it was truly, it scared me. I mean, in my own house. Oh yes, it was absolutely. When they're telling us
in the beginning, it was like they were thinking it was gonna be like a 10 or 15% mortality rate, 100% infection rate, overrun the hospitals, social collapse. I mean, they were these really out there.
Well, yeah. I mean, my sister is relatively high up in the British government, and she got read into a lot of the emergency planning stuff that was going on, and they were 3 to 4 weeks ahead of us. And from the stuff she was telling me, from what they actually believed, it was going to be a hell of a lot worse than it actually turned out to be. But March and April for us, it completely knocked the bottom out of my business, both businesses. And really now, coming back through September, man, COVID is the best thing that ever happened to us because it forced us to streamline, it forced us to analyze all our processes, and it forced us to pivot and make a profitable business out of
absolutely.
We had experienced such prosperity in 2019 for a lot of people's businesses. The stock market, the economy in general. I mean, everybody's disposable cash went up. I mean, you had a very low unemployment rate. You had just a really good situation. And then to have such a major flip inside of 90 days.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And just think about some of these larger corporations, larger companies and stuff. These are friends. These are neighbors of ours. When we were shutting this down, I would, the leadership that we have in place right now, starting with the mayor, starting with our judge, starting with all these, that we have going on the local level, because in my opinion, anyway, this is my personal opinion, I don't think the governor let a lot of stuff happen on the local level that I thought was very unfair. In my opinion, we had to do things. We had to make some moves that had to be done with right now. And I think that the mayors did a phenomenal job of trying to get us through. And I was the one that's saying, don't shut down, don't shut down, don't shut down. This is crazy. How are we going to do this? These are our friends. These are our neighbors. These are our business. I mean, being on the chamber board, being on that stuff, trying to get these businesses up and going. And then we're fixing to shut everything down. And, one of the very surreal statements was said, look, I don't have that luxury of just worrying about our friends and worrying about our stuff. I've got 90,000 people in the city of Bryan that I've got to make sure are safe and sound. And that's solely on our shoulders and solely on just, I have to err on the side of safety. And with so many uncertainties, so many unknowns, nobody knew. And I was listening to that, that same kind of deal. We were on that Zoom call and it was like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling, and we do need to. It was scary, and I don't scare very often.
Yeah.
Well, it's when you say, that's your opinion, and I mean, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and they're going to form it based off of what they've experienced. I mean, we're all just a product of anything that we've ever experienced from anywhere, whether it's your parents or your schooling or your work experience. I mean, working with small business owners the 13 years of my life and having started a business of my own and trying those different things, I side very, very hard with small business owners when I hear the effect of things taking place, and somebody else on the outside who is discussing their work in a very, very large corporate world. And, immediately when the layoffs happen and they're like, file for unemployment and do all this. And I'm like, if that's a small business, when they open back up, I was like, the state hasn't said what happens because the businesses have to support that. And usually it's to account for one or two individuals. If somebody gets laid off or fired or however that works, not the entire staff.
Right.
Exactly.
And then if they haven't said when you start back up, that person might not even be able to open back up when the shutdowns do end if they're already being forced and hammered. And so that really needs to be in the back of their minds, but it's never presented to the masses because there are so many people who work for these corporations, millions of employees and Amazon and Walmart.
Yeah, we were forging through the fog, so to speak. It was 100% unprecedented.
And to your point too, we were operating in 2019. Mm-hmm. Everybody was just we were living a dream. Yeah. Everybody was living a dream, and it's forced. A lot of these companies now are going to get very, very lean, and you're going to see. We by necessity you have to get lean, and you're going to see coming out of it. You're not willing to risk that like we did in 18 and 19 and everything else. You're going to stay and remain lean. I think it'll be very profitable.
I'm a lot more risk averse now with my investments.
Well, you talk about
what I'm going to survive through.
You talk about fiscal conservatism, and I think there's going to be a bigger push to that in a lot of people's businesses that were maybe very risk tolerant.
Yep.
Now you can't plan your business around this happening again inside of our lifetimes, but it has to be in the back of your mind.
Well, and I've always said that to me, all politics are local. I mean, stuff that happens in the national level, it by the time we got in Bryan College Station, we have always operated in a little vacuum. We've been in our little bubble. By the time the stuff that happens over there that gets voted on and everything else, by the time it reaches us, whether negatively or positively, we've already adjusted to it. Right. Same thing with the state of Texas. A little closer, a little bit less time, but we can adjust it here. And then on the local level, because of Texas A&M, because we've had that, the blessing of having this college and all this, tier 1 institution right here, we've been insulated, we've been shadowed, we've been everything from the rest of the world. Where other ones are really hurting, we haven't. Until pandemic, whoever would have thought that, our little bubble would bust like it has. And now we all realize how much, and we get it just through planning and zoning. And just a little history on planning and zoning. Everybody loves the students, and then you have everybody who can't stand the students, and it's like one of those things. And it never ceases to amaze me. They come over and say, "We don't want students living next to us. We don't want this next to us. We don't want the students over here." And I'm like, we got 70,000 students over there, plus another 15 with Blend, plus we're going to have another 25 with Relish. We're going to have more student population than any one of our cities pretty soon. And if you don't want students living next to you, this is probably not the community.
Our city wouldn't exist without it.
Exactly. This is not the community that you probably want to
wouldn't look the way it looks, and College Station wouldn't exist.
Neither one.
It gave me nothing but pleasure yesterday to walk into the village and see a queue to get a coffee. Yep. Every single table was full. All the tables outside were full. And it almost felt like, we might be seeing the backside of this. We might be getting
and
I was never happier to be stuck in traffic yesterday trying to get somewhere.
Fuego. They were queuing both ways in the street. There was a queue out in the parking lot at Fuego the other day when I went to get tacos for the kids. And I was like,
I'm okay with this.
All right, carry on.
One of the things that kind of gets me, it's another thing here. We talk about Bryan and College Station, the difference is, when Harvey Mitchell dedicated the land for Texas A&M University, it was 5 miles away from the city of Bryan. Yeah. There was no College Station. So when you hear the people saying, we don't want these students in our neighborhoods and they're encroaching on our lives, it's like, wait a minute.
You wouldn't have
the students were actually here first.
Yeah.
You encroached on the university. They didn't encroach on your houses or anything else. You encroached on their lives. And so I think at some point the students need to understand their value. Yeah. And I hate it when they think, well, people in their town don't love them, because we actually love them. They don't like us. People in Bryan don't like us. People in College Station don't like us. It's not true. Most of the people here love the students here. I remember growing up. I've grown up here all my life, so 56 years of my 56 years, I've lived here 53 of them. And I couldn't wait to be the old person on campus in college, and now these are like babies, when they're walking around over there, so it's just a whole different thing. But it's also a community that makes you feel young, because you're with young people. You have such a large percentage of the people around here are young. It actually keeps you young.
Yeah.
When you say that we're encroaching on the university, it's, if you don't believe that, I would just recommend that somebody takes a drive down University and watch where the university's territory ends and the ability for businesses to line up on the other side begins. They pushed as close as they could to that line.
Absolutely.
So they very much need the university. And go back to the whole pandemic thing and the changes that brought about, and the changes that we had to go through with online stuff. a lot of those businesses were forced to change to go to online, where somebody in the educational or even health, departments would say, the ability to go online, like that's a great idea. Maybe we could implement some test stuff, or we could try it. It's not possible. And then their hands were forced, and then all of a sudden now the opportunity opens up, and then A&M's having to figure out ways to make sure the students to stay on campus. And so now there's discussions. The girlfriend and I will watch some stuff on Hulu, and one of the ads came up the other day, and it was about this online university and how through the pandemic that they were able to sustain all the demand and how they're there for everybody else. And then somebody else brought up a really great point. I mean, even amongst all of my really close friends, and they said, think of people who you relate to and who you really admire or in work and stuff. And they said, where did they go to college? And they said, where did Einstein go to college? And then you start to really kind of think about how much your degree from like a specific university isn't that much of a niche anymore. And it's the education and your work experience and where you're
absolutely
well, the big pushback to trades,
right,
which is phenomenal because you have such an easy trade population.
It's making me wonder what's going to happen to College Station, and I don't think that they're going to drop down to a 5,000 population, but I think they're going to lose a quarter.
A&M's plan was to have 100,000 students in College Station.
It's like 85 or something.
Yeah. They wanted to have it's 85 or 90. It was a high.
It was really high.
In Bryan College Station.
Undergrads.
Undergrads. Yeah. Within the next, I think it was 5 years.
Now they have Rellis coming on. So Rellis is and we're the only university in the country, maybe in the world, that has this happening right now. So Rellis is a combination of all the system universities. So I don't know if you know, I'm on that advisory board, and when they put this together, now you're able to take A&M Galveston, A&M Stephenville, A&M Kingsville, A&M Corpus, A&M,
Commerce,
all of them, and taking the best of every one of those and say, okay, the dream of everybody is to be at Texas A&M, the mothership, to be here. Some can make it, some can't. Some didn't apply themselves in high school, but they're applying themselves in college. So now this gives them that junior college and the university and the college all to have here. They can be part of the Aggie experience, Aggie network here, go to school, go to the games, and be around like-minded thinkers. You look back at your college days; those are probably the best days of your life. I mean, this is why I feel sorry for the students right now that they're not able to be here, they're not able to gather, they're not able to have those same experiences that we had growing up, because I know that the amount of fun I had was directly proportional to my grades that I received at the end of the deal. So
inverse relationship.
Absolutely, it was just that's exactly what it was. Yeah. But I also treasure my college experience. I treasure the friends that I met, the connections that I met that made me who I am. We talk about how I got to where I'm at, all the different things. There's so many different things, but part of that is the college experience, and it's just being able to communicate and changing them. And I left from A&M, went to Texas A&I, which is now A&M Kingsville, then came back to A&M. And just because of a job, I got the job of my life, the dream job that I wanted after here. And so I went back to go do this. And that's where you get your growth, I think.
Right.
You really start who you are.
So give us the you've been in Bryan College Station 53 or 56 years.
Yeah, I graduated Bryan High School in 1982. Then entered in Texas A&M, went to Corps Cadets, Company P2 in the Corps, and then I transferred down to Texas A&I. Long story,
Your passion was cattle, wasn't it?
It's always been cattle.
A&I.
It's always been cattle.
What's A&I?
It was A&I at that point, but my parents had already started the store. So
what does A&I stand for?
It was agriculture and industrial.
Okay.
Agriculture industrial. So
and that became King.
But you went out of college into ranching, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I went to go work for the Bass Brothers out of Fort Worth and ran their ranching operations down in South Texas, and did well. I was a hunting guide. I did just kind of a little bit of everything down there.
Did you ride horses or four-wheelers?
We did horses and four-wheelers.
Damn.
And we had a string of horses. We probably had over, at any one time, 200-300 horses on the ranch.
So this is actually a legitimate, full-blooded Texan cowboy we've got.
Sam rode a horse, and he's not a legitimate cowboy.
No, we literally, there was the ranch. I guess I've been on several ranches down there, but the ranch that I actually was, and the management team on that one was 60,000 acres.
How in the world do you approach managing 60,000 acres? You can't see 60,000 acres at once.
Yeah. I mean, our pastures were 5,000 acres apiece. When we would drive, and it was an old ranch. I mean, it was the old Lips Ranch that the Basses bought. Lee Bass bought that and hired me to go. I was working for Oscar White before that on the Tasahia Ranch. hired me to come operate this one, and we'd drive cattle from the south end of the ranch to the north end of the ranch. It'd take us 3 days to get there. And so it was literally trail, like the old days.
And did you camp out and all that other stuff?
Some did. I didn't camp out all the time, but some did, yes. They had traps along the way, so we'd gather a 5,000 acre pasture. We'd put them into these lanes that would take them all the way up to the front. And then they'd have, another 100-acre trap that you could put them in overnight, and somebody would watch them and take turns and stuff like that. And then we'd move them the next day and trail them all down the lane again, and just till we got to the front. And we'd work them. We'd work 50,000 head in about a week's period, and shipping cattle, moving in and out.
The logistics of that,
the trucks. One thing I never got, the picture that I always wanted, because it just always blew my mind. When we were loading cattle out and shipping, we would have those semis lined up as far as you can see, and we'd work 24 hours. So our pens were lighted, and they had like football stadium lights. Mm-hmm. So literally, you never knew what time it was, because you're just adrenaline. Right. You're working, you're going, and it's daylight. And then when your shift is over, you go in and you go to sleep, and but you get up and you see these lights of all these trucks just lined up because they're sleeping in their truck before they get loaded. So we're loading 100 to 105, depending on the weights of what we're shipping. And they would deadhead straight from there up to, northwest Texas, and then literally drop off and come back and get in line all the way down to South Texas.
She get text to get you a photo of that. Go down there. That's one of the shots that I always wanted. I'd get up in the morning, I'd see them. It'd be still just dusk and lights lit up. I never got it. You can just see it in your head, and you can feel the air, like when you walk out in the morning and stuff when the sun comes up.
Yeah, it was awesome. We'd gather with helicopters, we'd gather with horses, with everything. So
it's always weird when you think back. I mean, you said you did the Corps Cadets here and whatnot, and I'm sure there's things that I don't remember a lot, but I can remember sometimes. I was not in the Corps, but when you would do those specific things for like a job or your work, that you get up and you can still feel like just the dew on the grass, or like the feeling of that air in the morning, and it's still like right there in your head.
Smell and memories and stuff. Yeah, very, very good. So
what brought you back out of that to Bryan College?
My dad.
Tired.
Yeah.
He didn't say a car.
Yeah.
It was
would probably been a truck anyway.
What got me out of here was a bad breakup. My girlfriend. That got me out of that. So Dad said I just, I told him I was changing. I would start out in architecture. That was my original major, and then midstream is all this stuff happened, and it's just like, I want to be an architect. I want to go down to agriculture. And so, you can't make any money in agriculture. You can't do this and that. It's like, just go down the ranch. And our family's been ranching down there for 8 generations. So go to the ranch and, take a semester off and think about it.
It was actually Spanish.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was actually sold Spanish land grant. Still in the family. Still nobody sells. But, we've been down there forever. I went down there, and my granddad and I were very, very close. We've always been very close until he passed away. But I never wanted to come back. I mean, I didn't. At that point, I could have dropped out of school and just stayed on our family ranch and just done that. But that wasn't an option back then. It was, for us, it wasn't, if you're going to school, that's where you're going to school. And that was always driven into our head. So I decided I was going to stay there. I could take classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I could be at our family ranch, and I could help my granddad, and I could do that. And I just come back. And then I started doing some part-time jobs just with some other ranches there on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which led it into a, full-time job, and then ultimately led me to the path where I was. And the opportunity came where I was able to buy my parents' shop. And so I decided to leave the ranch and come back over here. I figured I could, do good. And I was still single. When you're down there in the type of operations we run, it was, hunting operation plus cattle operation and a lot of entertainment. It was one of those things you couldn't go hunt down there. You had to be invited. It was all basically all billionaires, and they just, they do their thing. And what I've always told everybody, I was just a high paid butler. I mean, I was a high paid butler. I just made things happen. I made the parties happen, made everything just accommodating. So ended up back here. And
sounds like an ideal profession.
It's I guess, through our family, my dad, my mom, through being in business, growing up in the business, because I actually grew up in the tire store. I was never afraid to talk to anybody because you're always selling, you're always on point, and I would just kind of have that gift of communication, I was told. So there we have it.
I mean, that's where I met you. buying tires.
Exactly.
You know? I mean, I think that's where half the population of Bryan's met you. So again, it's an interactive podcast, and Bobby's joining us to talk a little bit about his history and a little bit about his run for Bryan City Council. So if you've got any questions for us, or more importantly for Bobby, post them up in the feed. So I noticed there's quite a few of you watching us tonight. So
somebody asked about the cigars we were smoking.
oh yeah, Eric.
Yeah.
Well, go on then.
So I am smoking a Drew Estate Brother of the Leaf, which is a stick that only comes out every other year. But they did a phenomenal smoke when I could find it.
And I have a Cohiba we went to Cuba, I guess 3.5 years ago.
Nice flexing, Bobby.
And,
That's flexing
yeah.
like that.
And I was actually going to bring a Monte Cristo, and I'm like down to I got a ration of those now. I think I got you one, didn't I?
I don't remember. Did you?
Anyway, that's so I brought a Cohiba that was right at the top of the deal. But I did get a really nice.
That's a politician move. It's like, I gave you one of those Cuban cigars, right? Don't
Yeah.
you remember that? And you're like, I don't think so. And he's like, yeah, dude.
So look at this thing here. So I was given these last night. This was #1 cigar in 2018, the Perez and Carrillo, the Encore. And I was presented with a bunch of these last night, and
nice.
phenomenal. So that was going to be it. And Jamie, I'm sorry if I'm not smoking it right now, buddy. If you're watching,
He'll get to it.
I will.
So the community thing that I really like about Bryan a lot, and I see the House of Tires all the time when I drive back, but there is a restaurant right behind you all, the Raspas El País.
oh yeah,
Oh man.
Phenomenal.
And my girlfriend and I probably have been supporting that place through the pandemic by ourselves, but it's just one of those things where Bryan has tons of little hidden gems all over it.
Yep.
And the longer I've lived here, because I've been in College Station for 12 years now, it was actually 12 years last month, where it's one of those things where people are like, oh, it's changed, or there's all this like great stuff there. And it's like, it's always been there. And it's just, if you're not going there and not seeing it and driving around, there's a lot of stuff you miss. I'm wondering, what are things that you think are things people don't notice about Bryan that they should notice?
Well, I think right now, growing up here and watching the migration and watching, through decisions that have been made, past, previous, whatever.
You say migration of
moving towards College Station, the population moving to College Station. College Station was growing up. There was nothing there. I mean, it was a small little town. It's grown. It's done very, very well.
You're talking long term, because in my head, migration's going back to Bryan.
It is now. Yes, it is now. But I mean, there was a time. I've been on planning and zoning for, it seems like forever. I think going on 11 years now. And first thing we brought up in there when we got in, I was directed by a previous mayor, Jason Bansky, is just figure out a way to just get this place opened up. I mean, Bryan is open for business. That was our motto. That was our stuff. We had a lot of empty buildings. We had a lot of opportunities there. And it was just like, figure out a way to get people in here.
20 years ago, when
Yeah.
I first came to town, you would kind of stay out of downtown Bryan. That was,
and that was
sketchy, man.
I've been in Bryan College Station 12 years as well. And I remember when I first got here, it was, kind of like the Lion King. Like, what's that shadowy place over there? Oh, that's Bryan. We don't go
We
there.
don't go over there.
Yeah.
It's not like that. That's the shining place.
Yes.
Now, I mean, since I moved my business to downtown, I've never been just happier. It's like, Christy called her coffee shop the Village, but it really is. It's like this own little centralized village with its own personality and its own characters, and I've made better friends in the last year since I think we took over the lease in November. So I've made better friends in Bryan than the College Station. It just even though I love College Station, shit, my business is called Live in College Station. I do own Live in Bryan as well, by the way. It reroutes we just have
I'd like to use
website.
that as my email address.
Live in
College Station is really long, and people are like, "What is that?"
We'll probably end up sending that out. But Bryan feels like a community, whereas College Station, it just feels very sterile.
Yeah.
It's the best way I can put it.
I think we never want to lose our charm. We feel like, and there's two views. I mean, everybody wants. Do you want that vanilla view where it's just all the light tans and greens and earth tone colors on every strip or anything else, or do you want the colors?
Yeah.
Or do you want the individuality?
Yeah.
Do you want the individuality? And over here, we're more of a, this is a community, and not to say anything, because I think I really truly believe that Bryan and College Station are one community.
No,
It's
yeah.
literally one community.
Well, your historic district, your ordinances and stuff. I mean, I've looked at that about building things and like restoring buildings in downtown Bryan, and it's really great that there is this really select section of area where it's specific to colors and styles and restoration. But on the outskirts of that, it's not like you just force everything upon everybody and everything. And I think it's more supportive of people who really care about it and want to do something, getting something done or being able to do that. Whereas in College Station, the things that I experienced were a little bit more difficult to deal
and
with.
and there's, because you have new developments, you have new neighborhoods, you have new, planned developments that are coming in all the time. Bryan, our rooftops have just exploded. And we have from every, socioeconomic, variation of it too. So you have the high end of Miramont traditions, and you have, Briargate, you have Austin's Colony, you have Austin's Estates, you have all these different things, and there's some beautiful places. Then you have more the center part of town that's older, that's been here for a lot longer and everything else. And my house was the old Dishman house. He was a mayor back in the 40s, and I love my house. I mean, I could, not that I can live anywhere, but I mean, I love my house. I got a great deal on it. It's been a constant passion of working and doing and everything else, but it's just a neat old house, and I still like the old wood frame houses. I just have that little passion. Sometimes I wish, like, oh my gosh, if I just had a really nice brick house, I don't have to jack with it, don't have to worry about painting and this and all that other stuff. It'd be a lot easier, but I just like them.
No, they're a work of passion to keep up with those older houses.
Mm-hmm.
I used to restore sash windows with my dad back in England, and they were all old houses also. I know exactly what goes into keeping those things running.
Then I need to get with you, because I have a window that's
You need my dad. You need my dad.
No. I've been actually looking for someone who can have one rotted board on the bottom of this. We have these big windows, and I got to find somebody who could just. I'm kind of funny that way. I say, why don't you just replace getting all new windows, the energy efficient? Like, no, I'd rather just pay the extra a little bit and keep my old windows that I love.
They're mechanical, but they're made of wood.
We have a guy that actually can do that. We're doing a house over in Antone that we're restoring right now.
Well, I'll make sure I got all that stuff before I leave.
But
Well, you look at the development just in the last 12 years that I've been here, and since I've really been paying attention to it, Bryan has really made strides to try to improve the city and try to improve it, make it more attractive. Whereas College Station's kind of done the antithesis of that and come in and said, we want to regulate. You have these people with this utopian view, but they want to have the college and all the advantages of it, but they don't even want to see it.
well, perfect example of this, and I hope I don't get you in trouble for this. But back when we had the car dealership on 21, I don't know if you remember this or not. I know where you're going. No, we were turning it from a dirt lot to asphalt and a proper, concrete entryway and everything else. And the regulations, planning and zoning said you got to have this many spaces, and then you got to have this many curbs and this many trees per space. And I remember coming to you and I'm like, dude, I can't afford this shit. What am I supposed to do? And your reaction to it was, look, get it close. Spend the money you got, make the improvements you've got, make what you can, and then we'll come back later and we'll deal with it. It's like we don't really mind as long as you're investing in the property, as long as you're making the improvements.
Well, and I guess you can't give me what we were trying to do at that time too, and I think
because that was what 9 years ago. No, it was 9 now.
Yeah.
9 years ago we did that. Yeah.
What I've been trying to do for a long time. I mean, you have empty buildings, you have empty lots, you have empty different stuff like that. Let's just say you go in there and you buy this place and you just spend $100,000 on it. You spent your life savings on $100,000 to open up this new business you were going to do. And then you come to the city of Bryan. Now, that's not the city of Bryan's fault that you didn't check all that stuff before.
Yeah.
Right.
But still, you own this place now. And now you have this great idea. You're going to have this new deal. It's going to be a new business. My whole thing was like, I get it. We've got to have the curb cuts. We've got to have the, landscape. We've got to have all this stuff. But why do we want to burden this all at one time? And this is not how it is now, but this is what I would love to see at some point. Let's get that business going. Let's say, let's look 1 year, 2 year, 3 year plan. We know where we're going to work to this, but we don't even know if you're going to be in business in a year.
And that's pretty much what you told me.
But let's get this stuff going, and next year you'll agree to do this, and the year after that you'll agree to do that, and let's get him going. Let's get that stuff out. Let's take these empty buildings and let's put businesses that bring tax value to it, and to bring sales tax to it.
I remember going through, and most of my experience in development's been in College Station, but it's I've been through 2 or 3 major projects in College Station, and just watching some of the roadblocks that have been set, and watching some of the ridiculous stuff that where you just look at the email and go, "Are you out of your mind?" Going back to the car dealership, when we went to put in the concrete entryway, it had to be 2 feet thick at the road.
No, 36 inches.
3 feet thick at the road.
Yeah, we had to have the ability for 18-wheelers to turn around.
However, it was up against an 8-inch thick asphalt road. So you had to pour a 36-inch concrete driveway.
And drive rebars into the road.
Yeah.
Into asphalt road.
Into an asphalt road.
Okay.
Which we did.
Yeah, but I remember
We
when
did it.
you found out about that, you went, are you serious?
Yeah.
Like,
It
3
cost
foot
us-
worth of concrete, you build a bomb shelter.
It cost a small fortune. It did. It's probably still not dry.
Probably not. And that's why that was the last piece of concrete, second to last piece of concrete laid out there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all asphalt still now.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think they put the curbs in yet.
We did learn don't go with the cheapest asphalt quote. Oh man.
I don't think we have much choice at the time, mate.
Yeah.
Pretty stretched budget wise. You can make a small fortune in the car business, Bobby. You just have to have a large fortune to begin with.
Exactly. I know.
Yeah.
Believe me, I know.
Yeah, you have a dealership
Yes,
too.
yes.
You sell cars off the lot there.
Absolutely.
What was the old saying Richard Branson had? How do you become a millionaire? He said,
Start
start with $1 billion and open an airline. You'll become a millionaire real fast.
Yep.
That's not.
That's cattle business too. So the
So
same thing
what-
with cattle business.
What drove you to say it's time to run for city council?
Well, like I said, I've always it is going to be for me. It's going to be a test to see if I can be more effective on the front end or I'm more effective on the back. And I've always been that guy that's okay. Let's encouraging people to get involved, encouraging people to get on boards, get on different commissions and stuff, and getting that next generation coming, getting the next people coming with that same vision. And that vision, it can't be, what are we going to do to change today? It's
Right.
got to be 50 years,
Yeah,
100 years out there. I mean, just let's start in a direction. Let's get toward going to our direction. Make sure that we're all in line with that same direction and keep going. I mean,
So are you running against a long incumbent, or is it a vacated seat?
this is a seat. Greg Owens, who's Mayor Pro Tem right now. Greg's another very good friend, and we worked on his campaign. I mean, he's just done a phenomenal job serving that district. Anyway, he's termed out, and we have COVID going on. So how can I go, hey man, we want you to run for city council. We're going to start this up. We're going to already have budget deficits. We're going to have all this stuff. So in my mind, if I can't ask somebody to do something I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
I think that because I've had all the experience with the economic development, with all the boards, all the commissions, everything else, it is time now that I actually try to put some of this to use and see if it's going to help.
So talking of long-term plans, can we talk about Midtown?
Let's talk about it.
What's going on with that now? Is that still moving forward as
Everything
planned,
is
or-
still moving forward as planned. We have our Midtown Park. We have Union Hill going on right now.
So
all the
what's-
redevelopment stuff that's going on.
What's
there.
Union Hill? Fill us in on that.
So Union Hill is a development that they're doing right around Farm Patch. It's going to make that whole area very walkable, redevelop all that stuff
yeah,
right
'cause they've
now.
been redoing all the roads over
Yeah,
there.
so
all the
everything's gonna be
curbs and
sidewalks and
Sidewalks
Is that why they're
expansions.
doing it?
Yeah, it's
It's just to slow you down on purpose. as you
Yeah.
cut through
Yeah.
South Colony.
I
They just
figured.
did it just for you, mate.
well, there's just a lot of stuff happening. So that's right, and that's what was called a long time ago, Union Hill. So all that where Martin's Barbecue and
Mhm.
Farm Patch and all that, chicken oil company,
Yeah,
all
I
that.
love the farm.
It's going to be all redone. It'll be very, very walkable. They have a little place for some outside entertainments, and it's just going to be really, really neat. That stuff is happening, still going forward, even in the midst of all that we have. Of course, we have the Super Park and Midtown Park that we have right now. Midtown Park is still going forward. They're just putting the roads through all that stuff right now too. They have an amphitheater there. They're dredging the lake. They've already drained it. It's going to start dredging out, digging it deeper, so it'll actually have things that you can do around
So
the lake.
a usable lake.
It'll be a usable lake. Yeah, they'll have boats, little paddle boats, and you'll be able to do out and do whatever you want to do out there. Be a little boardwalk. There's a lot
on a
of,
paddle boat. Like we used to rent those when we were kids.
and they go
Paddle
nowhere.
boats.
Just
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, come on.
I put the one with a swan on it.
Yes, yes.
exactly until you jump out and swim back because you're just not going anywhere.
I'm sorry, I don't want to jump in on that yet, but if they have a lake out there, there's a race that they do, and I think it's in Massachusetts, but they grow giant pumpkins year round, and then they submit them for the contest, but then they haul the pumpkins out, and then they do a pumpkin race with the cattle
Oh,
over there,
see?
and the people dress up And there's just this one, and there's a guy dressed as the Scream person from the movie, and he's on the pumpkin.
So there you go. That could be your thing. You got to start that thing going.
My thing. Thank you for
Well,
helping.
the good thing about this is I worked on that plan, and so how that whole thing got started, and not how that got started, but we took, I'm on the Bryan Business Council, the old RVP, which is Brazos Valley Economic Development Foundation now, the Planning and Zoning Committee, and I worked on the comprehensive plan, the 2040 plan, and then we were on Planning and Zoning. We were talking about aggie shacks, all that stuff that's happened. That was everything south of Villa Maria. Basically, it was transition.
Yeah.
So we were getting people coming in screaming and yelling at us. They'd come in all the time. You don't care, but it was by right they could do these things. So we've had some very, very tough issues that we've had to deal with on Planning and Zoning, and we have hashed it out as business people and as colleagues. And, what I've always told the commissioners, or, commissioners, as when I'm chairman anyway, while I've been chairman, is I don't care how you vote. You're here for a reason. You're here to give direction. We're here to give direction for council. I said, but we're going to come out of this thing unanimous. We're going to hash this thing out because we're going to present something to council that is going to be good for everybody, for the citizens. We'll listen to the citizens. We're going to listen to everybody involved, the people who actually have skin in the game. And, we're going to try to hash through this thing. And we put together a very good, doable, workable business plan to take to the city council. They immediately turned it down, said it was rubbish. And, then, so we had to go back, but it was rubbish. It was the exact right thing that council did. They sent it to us. We didn't think about some issues that they thought about. So it came back and, a lot of hurt feelings. Like we spent months and months and months on this thing. And everybody's given a little bit because there's very strong opinions on how you deal with property rights.
It's very hard to find that balance.
It is hard to find that balance. And property rights to everybody are sacred.
Yeah.
Not in my backyard, that's one property right there. And your right on your property affects somebody else's right on their property. Right. So it's a slippery slope. Well, we were able to take that back, bring it back over, come out with something that was really workable, really doable. And now it comes to us as a conditional use. And now you're able to look where it's not where the neighborhood hadn't already transitioned, you can still retain some integrity within those neighborhoods. So it really came back good. So we've had that. So we were working on that. At the same time, we were talking about downtown. And at the same time, we were talking about this midtown. I said, well, why don't we just since we're going to do a study for this detached shared housing for Aggie Shacks, and then we're going to do another study for midtown. We're doing another study for downtown. Why don't we just do one study and make it one big thing, and let's do a real plan that shows everything. What do we want to do? We get students from university all the way over to downtown Bryan, and then we need to make a community in between. Somehow make this continuous, make it one nice thing. And we have all these little key spots along the way that are
you have those automated trolleys I've seen downtown.
Well, we've talked about a whole lot of things. Absolutely.
All the way to the college.
Please don't do the one they did in downtown Cincinnati because it's just the worst idea ever. But they forced it upon the city and it was hundreds of millions of dollars. Well,
one of the things we talked about is, we're trying to get people in downtown. We're trying to get them into midtown. We're trying to, and let the students know that, first of all, it's safe. First of all, it's something that you haven't seen. It's really deep. So why don't you have a trolley that goes, from downtown to Super Park, to Union Hill, to Northgate, to Century Square, back all the way down, and just so they can all go and they can stop along the way. So you can stop at Midtown and get off at Carney's. You can stop at Midtown and get off at Chicken Oil Company. You can stop at Midtown and get off at so and so. You go down, a little bit of Ptarmigan Club, then you go all the way down into.
Well, we've got Brazos Transit District.
Well, you got to have set routes up, and there's a whole bunch of. There's a lot of politics that go into that.
Are you just talking about like an independent trolley? You're not talking about like one where there's the lines and stuff and the tracks and the rails, like a rail car.
Who knows?
Okay.
I mean, who knows really what it could be? I mean, it just how it develops.
Well, you've got those driverless trolleys being tested. I mean,
exactly.
Still got
which is one of the things. Yeah.
The kid's still sitting up front, but he's just hanging out reading his newspaper. But I've seen those floating around.
Exactly.
And if you increase the rating on those blue ducks, maybe you could get them going all the way. I still haven't been on one of those.
I had this image of myself going over the handlebars 3 feet in, and I just
right here.
Did you come off one?
I did.
You signed the waiver.
I was on the test run, and I came off one, and nobody was supposed to say anything about it.
You voted down.
You voted down to that city council. Black eye.
Like these.
Got a bandage on his forehead. Yeah.
No, it was, we were like 10-year-old kids, you know, of course, we all grew up together and get on the thing and you're racing. They all go at the same speed, barely going. But I found the line that I could cut, go through the, you know, over the curb, pop the curb, get on the sidewalk and go.
It was the curve Sam built.
I didn't have to do it, but there's a little pothole that was about this big and about that big around. Well, the wheels are only this big.
Oh.
So that thing went into the wheel.
So who's responsible for getting potholes? Is that you?
It's not my district.
There's the other guy gets a red note in the mail the next day. It's like pothole needs to
I'm
be
gonna go
addressed.
see if that thing's been fixed. I need to call our city manager up and find out and see.
So speaking of Midtown, you know, that's been very interesting to watch because there was almost these competing developments between Bryan and College Station for a while where they both had this Midtown concept. The College Station one seems to have faltered a bit. Bryan, the reasons shall remain unnamed, but Bryan has really seemed to run away with that, and you know, the acquisition of Big Shots moving into Bryan and having
that was a huge scalp for you guys.
Yeah, you know, but the question I'm leading to here is through this whole COVID debacle, have you seen or are you aware of any of the developers that are attached to this Midtown development say, let's just wait. Let's see where this goes, or are people still pushing full steam ahead with the confidence in the area?
Well, I know that we are, as a city, we're still pushing. I mean, things already been set. The bond's already been done. The money's there, has to be spent on this. So that's what we're going to do.
Might as well build
it. Well, not only might as well build it, it's absolutely the right thing to do. I mean, we've looked at the funding of it, and I'm not going to delve a whole lot into it because I didn't look at all the funding, but looking at some of the numbers, this thing actually does. It's
pencils out.
It all pencils out.
It's going to make
and the money is so cheap right now. You know, the money is so cheap to what we're doing. It almost pays for itself just in the financing, in that part of it. The Big Shots thing, obviously, it was Club Corp has that, and you know the Butler family is the most gracious family I think I have ever met. They're just unbelievable trying to get this thing off and going. Everything's been from the big corporations out of state, and they've you know, obviously they're holding back because they have golf courses, they have hotels, they have everything, which has been the worst hit of anything, with the exception of golf courses. They're actually working out good in COVID. But the hotels and all the other stuff.
On a golf course.
Yeah, so
I end up in the rough every time. There's nobody ever out there.
And just think about this: if Big Shots was built already, it would be jam packed. It would be the picture of what is the right thing. Those rooms are meant for 10 people or less. Mm-hmm. They're there. You're playing your game. You're away from everybody. They're different groups. It would have been perfect had this happened. You know,
2 years from now,
exactly. It would have been. Everybody would be in big.
But, you know,
shut your mouth.
That's really going to anchor that development.
Oh yeah,
you'll go from trying to sell spaces there to just taking orders.
Exactly.
Really. It's really going to anchor the development.
So what's the timeline? When is that phase one supposed to be done?
Well, phase one is actually the roads that they're already working on the roads. That's been cut through.
Yeah.
It's been going through.
You just shut them down completely. It happens that way.
They're doing the dredging. The lake's been drained. Now they're going to start the dredging process.
It was cool watching that drain away.
And then enlarging it, because it's going to be actually enlarged. The lake will be enlarged, so it'll be a little bit more. You know, you can go around with the amphitheater. So we'll have a really nice pavilion there that we can have outdoor concerts. You still have left majority of all the trees. They went through. They had arborists go in and tag all the trees that were going to die over the next few years. Those were automatically, those could be something.
Marking them with?
Well, the ones that were going to die for sure, that, you know, they have a longevity. And then the ones that are potentially going to always be here, that they don't get disturbed, those were marked a different way. So, I mean, it was done right. I mean, it really was done right. And, you know, and I'll just tell you, so, because I wasn't one of the ones that wanted to do ballparks and everything else. I was like, you know, this is kind of a once in a lifetime deal. We could have our own central park in the middle of, in the middle of Bryan. So we can have all this stuff, everything else. But as you look at the pencil, and I don't have kids, so that's another thing. So, you know, there is a lack of places for them to go. There's a lack of fields for them to play on. There's a lack, and I hear it from everybody. So we looked at what everybody told us they wanted. We put everything, from 1 to 100, and you take your top 10 and let's put it into one plan. And when they got that engineering, and there's a whole nother group that did the actual design of the plant of the park. But that process involved everybody. So, and sure, there's going to be people that go, well, my thing didn't get in it. Well, your thing was one of the down at the 100 down at the bottom, but majority of the citizens, all the input they had, this is exactly what everybody wanted.
I'm glad so many people voted for pedal boats with swan necks.
Yes, exactly.
You could see the immediate impact in that neighborhood right across. I don't know the name of that neighborhood, but right across Villa Maria from where Big Shots all that's being built.
Right.
You can see the immediate impact in there in property values and in development.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of those homes were 1960s, 1970s built.
50s even.
Yeah.
50s, yeah.
I used to live around the corner of Villa Maria in 2818, and I'd drive by there every day. And when they drained that lake, I remember like the first day, it was just like a bunch of mud out there. And then it was like 2 days later, it was just where all that fresh, new, exposed wet soil and just plants shooting out and stuff. And I was like, it's like, what is all this? What's going on here? And
Exactly.
I was like, But then it was also, it's like right after the pandemic, but I had started taking my morning walks there. And then they erected a big fence around the entire park. And I was like, this is bullshit. It's like, Bobby.
Stupid
Yeah,
park.
my fault.
Well, it's like the sidewalk that was built down South College approaching the university, and I never realized what a need there was for that.
Well, that was a TxDOT deal. So TxDOT did that, and we were trying to get TxDOT to expand that from Villa Maria all the way into downtown Bryan. And now that we're doing all this stuff, hopefully that's going to be the next part of the project. Line the streets with trees. Have really nice big sidewalks. Make it very walkable. Make it bikeable. Where you can walk from downtown into the Super Park, into Union Hill, and all around that thing there.
So I guess kind of ask a little bit more about the city council's impact and planning and zoning and everything. Are there things just as a citizen, are there things in place that say somebody on the city council, if multiple people on there have Egg Shack investments and whatnot, that they aren't allowed to drive development areas?
There's an ethics policy that you can't vote on something that that you're directly going to be benefiting from, or you have basically skin in the game.
You couldn't buy the 100 acres across 21 where Rel's campus was going to be built, before they announced the policy.
You can pretty much do anything you want,
Right.
but ethically, it's just, unless, it's kind of like, let's not even make a new ordinance that says everybody has to buy tires from House of Tires, then there's really nothing that I can.
Hell of an ordinance though.
Yeah.
So,
There's nothing I can get.
Yeah.
We give, if you look at the people who serve, and this is one of the reasons that being behind the scenes has always gotten to me, because these are people who I've got up, they're friends or colleagues or people I grew up with all my life. And these are good, honorable men and women who serve.
That's good.
They do it. Just take, for instance, P&Z. We get paid zero. We didn't even get a free lunch for a long time. And then they found out that we were there till 9 o'clock at night. And I was like, how come BBC gets, when I got put on BBC, I thought that was in hog heaven. I mean, we got lunch, we had it'd be a hamburger or whatever it was, but you actually got something to eat while you're in your meeting. And in P&Z, we start at 4 o'clock sometimes, and we go to 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, getting your butt chewed out for something. And you're like, and you're hungry, you get out of there. And they goes, you don't feed you? It's like, no, we don't get fed. So for years, no one got fed. It's like all of a sudden we start showing up with food.
Call Buppy, man. Get hooked up.
Well, see, and that's a great point. Call Buppy. Okay, so now Buppy serves, and Buppy had a phenomenal business with the city of Bryan because he's a great caterer. He did stuff. As soon as he got
super
on,
good guy.
He's an unbelievable guy. But as soon as he got on and became council, now it's a conflict of interest. So he lost
Huge chunk of his business.
$50,000 to $100,000. I don't know what the number is, but he lost a good chunk of change to serve the citizens of Bryan. I mean, he's one of the guys that people should go up there for a volunteer position to pay some $10 a month. And everybody donates that $10.
Because you couldn't do what?
Because it's a conflict of interest to sell to the city of Bryan if you're a sitting council.
Because he couldn't. Okay, because they were getting orders placed.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that is it's an unfair advantage. They call it that, but so now I know.
Is it if you're still supporting a local business?
It's you're gonna always have somebody that says, you know what, that was unfair. He's a caterer. You didn't get the order. So it goes around, and every time we go, we never know who, but it's always local. It's always a local Bryan business. We'll get catered from, someone. It's always potluck surprise. You never know. It's like, oh, this is great. You know this restaurant, and you go in and you get what you have. But our staff is really good about spreading it around. Good. But it's one of those things that people really need to know, that these guys who are serving, these men and the women who serve, whatever board they're serving on, it's a labor, it's a passion of love, it's a passion of giving back, and they should be thanked.
We were talking about it before the show, but I think Sam and I both investigated a city council run, and when you look at the investment,
how much? What is a budget to run for city council?
Because the number I was told was it was going to take $40,000 to win a seat in College Station on this cycle.
I mean, I know signs aren't cheap.
Yeah, signs are not cheap. I just got through putting out signs, and it still blows me away, but I've ran a lot of campaigns, and every seat is a little bit different. Every district's a little bit different. And like my district, I have a pretty large district, District 3, SMD3, which
What are the boundaries of that?
very diverse. It's basically east of 6,
Okay.
all the way to ETJ, going towards Huntsville.
Okay.
Everything from Old Reliance Road south.
Okay.
And then it comes across on Williams O'Brien, cuts across at Coulter, and then from Coulter north to basically to almost to Martin Luther
Just
King.
like that.
And without getting into the conversation of gerrymandering, how are those districts set? Is that did they just grow as the city grew?
You've got to have diversity in all the districts. You've got to have, and you want everybody to be representative and everything like that. So I don't know how. That's a Mary Lynn question, because I know they're fixing to redistrict again, and where my house is, I could potentially be redistricted out of the district that I win.
Yeah.
If I win, if I don't, then it won't be.
How many people are you up against in the race? I haven't seen a ticket.
I have one competitor that's done me. She's seems to be very nice. Anybody who is willing to put themselves out there, should be told thank you. No matter what it is, whoever it is.
Just from my own
We'll have them
information,
on next week.
does it
It's
make,
a surprise. Here they come now, though.
does it make financial sense for like signage? Like the strategies and stuff. But just because that district is your district, there are people who travel in and out. Does it make sense to put advertisements or signs out beyond that, like
absolutely.
on the major roadways?
I've done that too. I have, I know where most of my people either live and work and the stuff they travel. So you try to have strategic places that you want to have. It's like any kind of marketing thing you do. And I will tell you that every single one of my signs, I've asked permission to put it. So every sign, every placement, everything.
Never removed any yet?
If we bring you your opponent's signs, do you pay us for those too?
No, it's just, but
Off the record, of course. There's no cameras in the room.
yeah. No, it's just one of those things that, you'll see somebody puts a sign up and then all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of signs and they didn't ask permission or anything
Right.
else. And it's kind of like
Have you
legitimate thing
thought
to do.
about getting
I would do that
sponsored
in-
by Suddenlink stickers and putting those on your opponent's signs?
That's a very good point. That would be great.
Suddenlink sucks. they're just the worst.
Wait a minute. What is it?
Suddenlink.
They suck.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Bobby, to tell you.
I thought you were in touch with this town and the citizens.
I've never heard that before. Man.
Bobby's
So
like, I got
I'm
SBC
learning
Mobile.
something
I
right
don't
now.
Yeah.
That's wait, lost your sponsorship.
Yeah. So on that bombshell, and with all of us in agreement, it is time to finish. I want to throw a huge thank you, of course, to the guys at Texas Media Foundry that make us look as good as they do, because we are not handsome, especially not.
It's all filters.
They need better filters.
We should do the dog filter. So it's post our time.
Kyle, work on that.
Yes, I want to thank those guys. I want to thank the guys at 5 Knocks. And above all, thank you to Bobby. Thanks,
Absolutely.
man, for coming
Yeah,
out. And best
you,
of
Bobby.
luck in the
Thank
election.
you.
Don't forget to get out and vote on
Yeah.
voting day.
Early vote
What-
starts the 13th of October, so it's like right around the corner. The last day to
Can we
register
vote
is
by
the 5th.
mail?
Well, I don't know all the stuff right now, but it's just like I think the last day to register is the 5th. So if you haven't registered to vote, the last day to register is the 5th. Early voting starts on the 13th, and then voting, of course, is obviously it's going to be on November the 3rd. And
So vote
I'm
twice.
running Bryan
What's
City
your saying?
Council SMD3.
Yeah.
I've got a very good friend, Flynn, is running Flynn Adcock. You need to have him on.
Yeah.
He's going to be running for
We're done,
SMD4, and he's a phenomenal guy. He's chairman of BTU board
Okay.
right now. A lot of knowledge, a lot of experience behind him.
All right.
I'd love to have him.
You heard it here first. A huge thanks to Bobby, and best of luck in the elections, guys.
Thank
Remember, get out there and vote. All right, we will see you same time next week. Thank you so much for watching, and you'll be good and stay safe. All right. Bye-bye.
Now we have an awkward paper shuffle.
This awkward paper shuffle to
All right.
the camera.